It has recently come to my attention that you are not bullish enough. I am not bullish enough. And we're talking about bull market EllioTrades. Check this out. Here's why I believe not only a Bitcoin ETF, a spot Bitcoin ETF, but a spot Ethereum ETF will be approved within the next year. This is not a joke. This is not clickbait. An Ethereum ETF is coming, and it is going to wildly transform the way that crypto works and the amount of money flowing in to not just Ethereum, but the entire crypto space, So I quote retweeted this morning here. By the way, before I read this, are you following me on X, the artist formerly known as Twitter? Because if you're not, you are screwing up. I am putting my heart and soul into the content there with insane posts like "Happy Saturday, we still here." You simply need this content, so make sure you follow me on X. Anyway, back to the point here. Eric Balakunas here, who's an ETF expert, the resident ETF doctor here on Twitter, said ARK just filed for a spot Ether ETF, the first one, probably more coming imminently. Now, before you get all carried away, I know what you're thinking. Yeah, we had spot Bitcoin ETF applications in 2017 and 2018. Those rolled in and rolled in and rolled in. It meant nothing for years and years, just rug after rug, disappointment after disappointment. However, there's just one little thing here that makes this very different. You see, since the US court system declared that a spot Bitcoin ETF had absolutely no logic that made sense as to why the SEC was saying that it wouldn't approve it, was delaying their decisions, now a spot Bitcoin ETF seems very likely. And specifically, this is because of the futures Bitcoin ETF. There's an ETF where you can trade futures, go long, go short. You can even go 2x long, 2x short, which means you have leverage on the futures. You see, the SEC was arguing that Bitcoin's too manipulated for a spot Bitcoin ETF. And that logic doesn't stand up if you're letting a product that trades based on the price like a futures ETF actually go to market. You cannot argue that the spot Bitcoin ETF is manipulated while the futures ETF is simply not. They are the same thing. They trade together 99.9% of the time. So you can't tell me that they're different. And we have yet to hear an update as to whether the SEC has a rebuttal to this. My belief is that they will back away from this fight, that they are clearly losing. And you can clearly hear this voiced by the head of Grayscale here. And of course, Grayscale is the one who dealt this disgusting and fatal blow to the SEC in court over the Bitcoin ETF. Watch this.
The operational next steps on anything that Grayscale will or won't have to do will be contained in that final mandate that comes out of the court. But one of the interesting things that we actually got from the court in yesterday's decision was that the court agreed with us. The arguments we've been putting forward all along throughout this process are such that the SEC already has the tools it needs to approve spot Bitcoin products like GBTC, that there is sufficient surveillance between the CME, where Bitcoin futures trade, and national securities exchanges like the New York Stock Exchange, where we intend to list GBTC as an ETF. So there really shouldn't be any further grounds like the SEC has been relying on to continue denying these types of products from coming to market.
There's no more ground to deny these products coming to market. However, I know what you're going to say. Well, that's just Bitcoin. That's just the Bitcoin situation, and that's because they have a futures ETF. And well, Ethereum's a much less mature asset. It's in a totally different camp. And of course, they had an ICO. They might still be a security. But wait, just a few weeks ago, we got word that the SEC is expected to approve an Ethereum futures report by October. You see, approving ETH futures is not only implicitly acknowledging that ETH is not an unregistered security, because you can't approve a regulated product trading an unregulated product. No, that would be quite silly. However, this is where I'm going to call on you guys to summon every brain cell in your body and connect the dots here. Bitcoin had a futures ETF first, and that's the reason why the courts denied them blocking a spot ETF. ETH is about to get its futures ETF, and therefore, ipso facto, we can connect the dots that everyone and their grandma will be taking the SEC to court immediately if they try to deny an ETH spot Bitcoin ETF. Now it's time to talk about the sponsor of today's video, NordVPN. Now, before I talk about this awesome product, which I use myself, and especially their new product, Threat Protection, which is going to prevent your data from leaking, which of course was the root cause of me getting hacked just a month ago, and it completely derailed my life. Honestly, one of the worst things I've ever been through. And that's why NordVPN, in my opinion, is a must-have. Not a nice-to-have, but an absolute must-have in the modern day? How many of you connect to the Wi-Fi at the cafe you're sitting at, or the hotel, or wherever you might be without thinking twice about it? Well, you can do that, but if you're not using a VPN, then you could potentially get a man-in-the-middle attack, where effectively that Wi-Fi network just takes all of your personal data and potentially records your login details as you're signing into your accounts. These types of information get bought and sold on the black market, and it gets worse here. We all know that your data is being recorded in crypto land. Every time you visit an exchange, a website, and we recently heard about the horrific incident of customer data being leaked in the FTX bankruptcy case. That's right, this rabbit hole goes deep. If you're letting your data leak, then people can start matching your login details with records of crypto customers, and you can see how savvy hackers can start getting all kinds of data on you. In my opinion, not having a VPN is one of the dumbest things you can do in the modern day if you're a crypto user. The solution is simple and it only costs $3 if you use my link in the description and get yourself NordVPN with threat protection. If you have another VPN, I suggest you switch to Nord because of this threat protection feature. And if you already have NordVPN, cancel it and get it again for me. It supports the channel and I thank you. Again, we're going to be taking on sponsors carefully here to help expand the research team at EllioTrades. I want to bring you the absolute best content, the absolute best research in this space, and create a media channel the likes of which this industry has never seen before. I'm sure you guys have noticed a monstrous increase in output from this channel, and that's because we are ramping up as the cycle is starting to change, as the cycle is getting closer to the bull market. News like the Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs are part of this new cycle, and so I appreciate you supporting sponsors like NordVPN who want to support this channel so we can grow together. And with that said, let's get back to the conclusion of this video, and a big shout out to Nord once again for sponsoring. So back to this original filing here that ARK just filed for their spot Ether ETF, and this will set a timeline of events where there will be a first response, a second response, a third response. Eventually, the SEC will be forced to approve or deny, and that could take 9 or 12 months. I don't know the exact timing, but within 9 or 12 months, we will see the SEC have to say what they think about this product. And they would have to do one of two things. They would either have to say Ethereum is an unregistered security and we won't list it, which would mean now they're going against the CFTC, which has declared that Ether is a commodity. And there's also wording from Hinman, who was previously in the SEC, who had said publicly that Ether was sufficiently decentralized and was a commodity. So this means that they would have to go against their own SEC guidance from the past and the CFTC, who have been trading an Ethereum product on the CFTC for a long time now. So now you have two government bodies going against each other. Seems absolutely insane and unlikely. Or two, they would have to come up with a reason other than it's an unregistered security why the markets are not reliable. And most likely they would say something like they're too manipulated. However, think about that. That's exactly the logic that got them into hot water with the Bitcoin ETF, and exactly the logic that the courts unanimously rejected. So riddle me this. Unless the SEC are able to pull out some magical reason why Ethereum is able to trade a futures ETF and not a spot ETF, again, something they failed to do throughout their entire court proceeding against Grayscale, we will not only be looking at a spot Bitcoin ETF, but a spot ETH ETF, in my opinion, sometime within 2024. This, I believe, will be one of the biggest catalysts that we've ever seen in this industry. Again, remember, I am a massive ETH bull. And I actually have more of my portfolio in ETH than Bitcoin. And if you ask me what this means for what ETH could do in the future price-wise, well, we got to start putting our moon boy hats on because the numbers could get crazy. I personally couldn't be more excited about this next phase, especially as the charts look heavy and overweight. Are we going to zero? Are we going to whatever? Cry me an MFing river. I'll be buying, and maybe I'll look like a fool, or maybe I'll be crying my way to the bank. Time will tell, but if you enjoyed this video, make sure to click on this one. It's even better than the one you just watched. I'm EllioTrades. Subscribe, come on, hit that sub button, hit that like button. It really helps me and the channel grow. And as always, I'll see you soon on the next episode.